All right. So it's being sent. Cool.
Awesome.
All right. We are doing
Um,
this. Oh, fuck yeah. I think we're good. Uh, I think we're live. Looks like we're live.
Perfect. Well, that's an excellent start to this episode. Here we are for Dualistic Unity Roundtable number 30. Number 30. I'm almost entirely certain it's number 30 because I don't think we've hit 30 as yet. But number 30, that's fucking incredible. We've been doing this for a while now. I remember the first couple, we were like, I have no idea how this is going to go. And what's nice is that here we are at number 30, and we still have no idea how this is going to go. The only thing that's really changed is our attitude towards it. For example, you may have noticed that I am not, in fact, in my usual place at my desk with my computer and my microphone. I am on my phone, and it was a last minute decision because, frankly, I just can't get the audio to work on Zoom. Audio works everywhere else. You don't need to know the details. You don't really care. Point is, it's something that I'm currently working through while we record this episode. So, fuck it. I'm going to use my phone and participate here and there as best I can and try and fix this problem in the background. So you may see me pop on and off of the screen. You may not if you're not watching this or if you're watching this after the fact. The point is, I'm just kind of flowing with it. Fuck it. It's going to figure out how it figures out. Things are going to work out. You're going to either stop listening about now or you're going to continue on and you're going to be surprised by a mind blowing episode. It's really up to you. Choice is yours. I'm going to shut up now.
Oh yeah. Just fucking show up. All you got to do. Show up, be you, see what happens, be paying enough attention to find out what happens. And I appreciate you bringing up the background stuff because I got to make sure my computer has enough storage to get this recorded. So I will be working through that before this ends. So I have nice and plenty of time to do that. But it's fun because we can talk all we want, but it's like, here's something happened. Things are changing, shifting, and here we are rolling with it. And the beauty of a podcast, talking all about rolling with it, is that anything that happens, however it plays out, however you show up, is the the way that the podcast is being expressed this time around. And imagine if we knew how things were going to be or how things were going to go, getting it like feeling comfortable going into an episode. Like that wouldn't be very fun. I feel like it would just probably be a repeat of something we've already said. So you kind of need a little bit of that, discomfort for something new to arise or for something, for you to drop that and let go enough to see what happens and see what plays out. So we'll see where this goes. And I have thoughts about where we could jump in unless someone and are we doing hands today? I feel like we don't need to, but we can do physical hands too. Yeah. Jay, is that a hand or are you trying to are you trying to swat Jesus? Okay.
I'll make it a hand. I was kind of like grabbing the ball, Hey, buddy, giving a block. But yeah, I thought I would bring up. We were talking a little bit before the live started up, and so we were just kind of shooting the shit amongst ourselves. With, hey, what's up? How you been? What's happening and stuff. And I was discussing what an experience that I had today that I was going to post a video on, which is something like rolling with it is kind of on this same kind of an idea because I've been like, posting content here and there. And it's just a lot of just me being kind of authentic. You know what I mean? Just kind of me being me, expressing what I'm working through in my own kind of life and just kind of putting it out there and seeing what vibes. And it's just, I've been getting a lot of good response with comments and stuff like that and just being able to communicate with people. And I'm able, hey, Marie, what's up? And being able to just experience things in a more authentic way and not have to feel like, I don't know, there was a time in my life where I was not wanting to be seen. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, like I just didn't feel like worthy or something. You know what I mean? Like my self worth factor was just pretty low, and so that's just been something I was dealing with. So now posting videos has really helped me to kind of express myself and to see where I stand kind of authentically within my own view of things as I express that. You know what I mean? Because anything I express, I, you know, it's just part of the experience. And some people will have things to say, and there'll be other, you know, everybody's got something to say about everything. You know, we live in a society that's not genuinely set up to be authentic, so it can come across in other atmospheres as being a little different. You know what I mean? So, um, but I put myself out there because this is a spectrum of world that we live in that's a broad spectrum, and the more we kind of express ourselves authentically and get a little bit like outside of what societal norms dictate as norm, then it can, you know, it's just going to be more and more easier for people to feel like they can be themselves authentically without having to fucking worry about it. So, like, I just had an experience today that I thought I would bring up, and it was like I was doing this group meditation, and part of the meditation was kind of geared to love, and so part of the meditation was, you know, you envision a past version of yourself, and so I did, but it was like a rush of like all the past versions of myself, like all at once. It was like whoa, like this whole stream of me's, right? And I'm like, whoa, holy shit. But I really like felt how they felt and looked at them like through their eyes in a minute, you know, for but with that space of not being them. You know what I mean? So I was able to kind of be them but not be them. So it was like whoosh, but it was like all the versions of me, you know what I mean? It was like whoa, but all at the same time I really like empathized with them, and I was like dude, I really like felt like uplifted by them because of the strength that they had, because it was tough for me those past Jays say to experience that, because he didn't really feel like he had all that confidence, and like he didn't know what he really was, you know. But now that I know that I am what I am, which is a lot more than just in this body, it's everything, you know, that it, now that that's I'm experiencing the wealth of what I am in that respect, and looking back and through my own personal parts of me, and experiencing that love that I give freely to everybody else, but doing that for me, you know, too. Because I'm part of that. I'm no different than all the other people that I love and try to, you know, be just genuine to and care about, you know what I mean? So I was able to like say to myself, like, dog, you like you really I love you, dude, and I appreciate you. Like I like gave myself the biggest fucking hug. And this was out of nowhere. Like mind you, I just got out of work, like there was like snow going on, had to get home, and the Uber driver, I forgot my freaking backpack. At the start of this, my backpack just got dropped off by the Uber. I'm like, speaking of, you know, things not going always as planned, but and it, like just rolling with it, like that's just how it's been today. You know what I mean? But I had that experience of love for myself that I don't want to like minimize that point. That was like a mind blowing shift for me. You know what I mean? That was like just the most genuine, like heartfelt love for me and everything all at once that I've ever had in my life. It was just like, wow, you know? So thought I would lead off with that. Anyway, see where that goes. That was my afternoon so far, y'all.
Love that. Jay, I definitely resonated when you were talking about like how our society is not structured for authenticity because it's structured, in my opinion, for predictability, right? I don't want you to be authentic. I want you to be something I can predict. And so I need you to be a good citizen. I need you to be a good contributing member of society. I need to know what you're going to do because in that striving for control, you know, predictability is an ally to control. You know, if I know what to predict, it's because I know what's going to happen next. And if I can almost guarantee what's going to happen next, and that's going to aid me in my goal for control. So I don't think that our culture is, or our society, or whatever we want to call it, like us collectively aren't really nurturing authenticity, but we are nurturing predictability, because it makes us feel better. I was thinking about the word being because I love that we've been talking about like being myself, and like what the fuck that means, you know? Like, because it feels like it's always changing. I'm like, which self, this self or the one from 5 minutes ago? Because I don't know if I agree with that one anymore, you know? And so like being myself feels like this, it's like trying to catch smoke with my hands almost. Like no matter how much I try, I can never really grasp smoke, you know? But I was thinking about the word being and how it's spelled Being, and how the word be is before I. And so for me, it was almost like a hint. Like the word being was like, you know, you being happens before I arrives, you know? And so I love that kind of hint. And I love like just looking at words differently like that, or looking at words with certain connotations, and how, you know, you guys had brought up the point, you know, when you're inaccurate versus wrong, and how different that feels when someone says that you're incorrect or inaccurate versus when someone says you're wrong, and how we tie such things to words. And so I love that I was just playing with the word being, and I was like, fuck, man, that hint's been there this whole time. Be comes before I keep fucking it up. No, you know, doesn't, you know, but it just felt fun, and it just felt really playful to just look at the word being in that way, and how just that one word kind of gave me another option, you know, another consideration.
Yeah, because if the I comes before the B, then it's I bing, and that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work. It just doesn't. You can keep trying it, but it's still not going to spell being. It's still not gonna play out. But it like, even as you're explaining that or expressing that, like if you're paying attention, I isn't so much in the way, right? And you can keep doing that. And there's almost like a hesitate, like, can I? Can I really just keep paying attention? Will I have the words when this shifts or changes? Will I know what to do when the time arrives? John, hello. You are muted.
Rookie mistake. First time, it's going to happen, right? So we're going to brush that off. It's going to go right along with the theme here. So today I saw the email for the invite for the call today and shit my pants because, of course, I feel maybe I need some more practice before getting onto a live call or one that's broadcast out. And I thought, you know, there's no better time than the present to put myself out there. And I want to kind of talk a little bit about like the nerves of that. At first, I really didn't. I wanted to come on here and be my best, do my best, and everything that's going through my body right now is a little bit nerve-wracking, but it's also exciting. It's a way I want to Amanda's perspective of shifting words that have already been there or always were there and thinking of them a little bit differently, reinterpreting this nervousness as excitement to participate. And so kind of framing that for myself right now. When the episode was having trouble getting started, I was like, oh, this is it. This is because of me. It has to be because of me, because I'm so nervous about being on this damn call that this is a sign that we're not going to record this because John is so damn nervous. So, I am coming on here today and really working through that and excited to do so and appreciative that this is the conversation because it's helping me actually ease into it and be a part of the call today. So glad to be here. Just wanted to say hi.
I am so glad that you were here, John. I got to say, and you know, I love it because we all do that kind of stuff. It's like, oh man, I was doubting myself. Then this didn't happen right. Man, did I do that? And the rest of the time, we think we're totally ineffectual in our life. But now all of a sudden, we have omnipotent fucking power. It's like when I didn't want it, now everything is within my grasp, and it's just so funny. But that said, we share the experience because like I've worked with web design and marketing and pretty much everything online for a long time. And so when something on my computer ceases to work properly, especially right before I'm supposed to do something that is again, business related, let's just say. Immediately that feeling of, oh fuck, like, because like there's been a number of times where it's like, oh shit, like I have no computer and my client's website's due tomorrow. It's like big panic, like lots of shit. And so I'm going through the same thing. But what's interesting is that I went through this phase of, okay, it's not fear, it's not anxiety, it's excitement, because they feel very similar. And that's very true. At the end of the day, though, it really is just what it is. Like, and that's always the case. Like, I'm feeling kind of shitty. That's what it is. I'm feeling kind of like that's what it is, right? And we always just have to march right the fuck through it. And so it's kind of nice to remember that you could reframe it, but you're going through it anyway, which means you don't really need to. You're really doing it because you just can. You're like, well, I got to walk through this fucking garbage heap, so I may as well, smell the flowers while I'm doing it. I may as well look at the fact that there's some beauty here, right? But the fact is take note. You're going through it. You're doing it.
Yeah.
It's really nice to have you here, man.
Thanks. If I can expand on that, I've really been going through some tough times right now. I'm actually, today is my 1 year anniversary of retiring. And retiring was really a shift of getting out of the hamster, getting off the hamster wheel and moving and betting on myself, actually. And I'm not where I expected to be. And I'm finding myself the last 2 days leading up to this uh, having in crazy conversations where one moment, I'm doing the normal human thing of beating myself up and, disappointment and fear that comes along with that. And I'm really excited to be in a place through this process of being able to kind of talk through it, get it out, as opposed to keeping it in, has really helped reframe a lot of that conversation. And as I calmed myself down and really took reflection of how far I've come in a year, I'm really proud of where I am, even if it's not where I expected to be. And a part of that reframing this year was I didn't expect to. I thought I was building a new version of myself, but I didn't expect unraveling the old version in the same time. And that has been a work of fucking art. I mean, it's really been a tug of war, really. And so today didn't feel any different in the tug of war aspect, with the exception of I'm able to have this dialogue with myself and build myself up as much, well, more than actually at this point than tearing myself down. And that was what really gave me the confidence today to show up and be a part of this process. So when it was having problems, then all the things were, of course, all those other things were going through the mind, right? That are also just normal. And I've gone through that in business and stood up in front and thought, well, I got to face this, and I don't know what I'm capable of if I don't put myself out there. And so what's come up the last couple of days is, working through, not shying away, because if, my dream is on the other side of whatever my resistance is. Well, so far that's been my case. And so showing up today was a part of commitment to myself as well in that. But I also don't know what we're going to talk about. So I thought, gosh, I'm like, there's no topic today. What the hell am I going to talk about? And then everything that started this also was related to the things that I'm going through. And I'm like, okay, this is perfect, because I can talk about what I'm going through right now. I can talk about all of that stuff and still be here and talk about how uncomfortable that is and work through it. And I'm honestly proud to be amongst a place to be able to do that. So, thanks.
Holy shit, dude. And I'm gonna pass this to Marie really quick, but fuck yeah, John. Fuck yeah, dude. Like, oh, and the thought of like, what are we gonna talk about today? Like, you're speaking to my soul right now, man. Like, I was pacing my apartment like a couple hours ago, like, are you really gonna like talking to myself? Like, are you really gonna hide for your whole fucking life? Like, are you really gonna shy away from things forever? Like, are you really gonna continue to assume that there's something wrong with the way that you are? And Jay, to your point, with all the past versions of yourself, like seeing that those are not just you, and it's like those are variations of people in the world too that we, resonate with, and we empathize with, and connects us to people like, the version of you 30 years ago, someone out there is that version right now. And to assume that there was something wrong with you then is to assume there's something wrong with them now, but there wasn't anything wrong then. I like all the versions, there wasn't anything wrong. As you were talking, I was like going through that same sort of thing, like, oh man, a lot of emotions down there for sure. But yeah, jumping in. I actually reached out to a dispensary earlier today and may end up co-hosting an event of some sort. And I got Wing Chun on Thursday. First time getting physical since like fucking hockey. And yeah, also and improv thing Friday. I'm trying with Zoe probably. So she said there was an extra spot. Texted me this morning. It's like, fuck yeah, let's fucking do it. Why the fuck not? So I resonate a fuck loud, dude. uh, Marie.
Yeah, thanks so much, John, for sharing all of that because I resonated a lot with it too, especially that part that you shared of like that feeling of after the year of being retired of I'm not where you thought you were going to be or not where I'm supposed to be. I don't know the exact phrasing, but either way, that same similar thought has been coming to my mind too of like that judgment of like you shouldn't be where you are. It's like what does that even mean though? Because where we're creating this narrative of where we think we should be based off of something that we made up. And then what I've been trying to do is just recognize, like you were sharing too, of like where am I? And acknowledging um I guess, the growth and like the experience that I have had instead of focusing on this made up thing that isn't happening. And a lot of that is being um yeah, it just feels like conditioning. It just feels like something that, yeah, it's just so it's been interesting kind of undoing that, but it's also just interesting that in each phase of our life that judgment or thought will come to mind and it'll be like, oh yeah, I don't have to buy into that. I don't have to believe that there's some place that I'll be, there's something that I'll, get in return. I don't know. So it's just it's funny to keep relearning. And something that's been coming up for me as well is the idea of I know I've talked on Patreon calls about it, but I like just had an interesting conversation with my mom about like how she wants me to be with somebody and like couple up because that's what people do and it's good to have somebody to do things with and I'm like and she feels bad that like the relationship that I'm in doesn't really offer that. We don't really see each other as often, and but I told her that like I'm the happiest I've ever been though in my life, and I want that to be the focus. And what I ended up really realizing is not necessarily the happiest because there are times where it feels really intense, but I am the freest I've ever been. I've like the like the most myself or even I know Amanda you made that joke because it's like what does that even mean but it's just been like a fun exploration and I feel like that's been my focus lately and that's been a really cool thing to explore instead of it being on one person or one thing or one whatever it may be and be like that's going to give me this joy that's going to give me this freedom it's like no that's a choice and an opportunity you have at this moment. And the more I explore that, I feel like people don't see that, and that's not up to people to see. And it's not like my mom might not ever understand that in her experience as what she is now, or whatever. She might not just get that, which is fine. And I've also been going through like not feeling the need to like tell my mom like, oh, this is start going on a spiel of, what I've been doing and what I believe in or what I don't believe in or like how I see things. I just kind of feel it out. And instead of, trying to have an agenda with people, I just kind of am being whatever feels like is happening, I guess. I don't know. That's what I got here.
Yeah, what's the phrase? You don't have to rationalize anything to anyone ever. Something is it rationalize? Something like that. Along those lines. Yeah. Because there doesn't have to be an explanation, right? You don't have to give them that. Levi.
Hey, yeah, I'm feeling this conversation from start up until now, like everything with, you know, judgment of past self and where I am and like my fears and how I'm kind of handling them. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's all in there. I just saw a video, I think yesterday, like of me like in the very beginning of the year for my own DU journey. And in the beginning, I was like, oh my God, I was just judging it so hard. I was like, oh my God, and I'm like, what are you judging? Like, what are you talking about? This is you, it's literally you. And it is still you kind of. It's like it's a part of me who brought me here. And as you were in talking about earlier, it's actually, you know, it's out there, that kind of tension that I kind of recognized in myself all the time. And when I'm just hearing this freedom thing or like the feeling happy or feeling free, I feel like this freedom, I'm also feeling it a lot, but I feel like it's very freeing, but it's also very turbulent because I'm doing a bunch of shit that I wouldn't otherwise have done. And it's scary, like, and it's like, and also like, oh man, yeah, exactly. So, and it's something there, I think, about this fear that um, okay, I just lost my train of thought a bit, but there's something about my fear and oh man, I just lost it. That's fine. But anyway, I'll just stop there and yeah, I'll jump in at some point again.
Oh my God. Levi, I just want to say I love that. And I was thinking, do I ever judge without measuring? Like, do I ever judge without measuring first on some level that either I am not good enough, the situation is not good enough, or that something or someone else is not good enough? Do I ever judge without measuring first? I couldn't come up with an example. It's like I measure so fast and I'm like, put the fucking ruler down, Amanda. Put the ruler down. Holy shit, I am holding a ruler. I was just about to measure something. John, and over to you. Tell us.
Oh, was that to me so quick? Dang. I love that, the measuring stick. And also I really, what resonated with me, and thanks for mentioning that, Levi, is with Marie, the feeling, the freedom, which is such a contradiction to what my experience had been earlier in my life. And I think I get stopped up in it because of that fear. But that ability to be able to have a circumstance where somebody else doesn't understand and to feel free in it and to be able to sit in that place and go, but I feel this way. So thank you for your perspective, but this is my perspective and I'm good with this. Like this feels amazing. That was a really hard circumstance for me. And I learned that actually in New York, uh, living there. I thought, gosh, there's 9 million people live here and I only know one. So what's stopping me from judgment, right? Because I don't know any of these people. So really gave me an opportunity to get outside of my comfort zone. On the tier 2 call that we had, a couple of days ago, somebody had mentioned something that really put things into a perspective so far, as much as I've realized it, that I really wanted to talk about for a second. And it was, they said that they were very shy. And because they were shy, they weren't speaking, they weren't really participating. And somebody had noticed that. And they said, "Oh, you're so shy." And he said, "I'm not shy, I'm scared." And as soon as he said that, I lit like a flood. So to Jason's perspective, all of these past lives came flooding through into this present moment, and I was like, that's what was happening to me when I was a young kid. Was I was just frightened, and so I didn't participate at all. I didn't participate in life. It was like I had to be forced to be doing something, unless there was this one moment where I was not paying attention and I was, a child and being free, and that freedom felt amazing, because once I caught that, I went back into being scared, and having this untouchable face, in the sense of like, you're not going to break me. Like, it's just a dead face. And I lived a lot of my life that way. And so a part of this process, uh showing up at first, when I started showing up with DU, I thought, I want to participate in this conversation. And to be frank, I didn't want to participate in all of the conversation. Some of it still scares me. Like, I'm still unraveling some of it. And so I, take a break and process, and I find myself coming back, and in that process, allowing myself to continue to unravel and get to know myself, which has really put me into a place where I am like considering that the uncomfort is the living of life. And I don't know that that's like full realization there, but any great moment that I've had, I was nervous, I was frightened, I didn't believe that I could, even though I believed that I could. And so I'm really pushing through the uncomfort to show up, because for me, I'm trying to redefine, well, I am redefining what living life is, and putting myself in uncomfortable circumstances and being okay. I mean, not danger, but talking about stuff is not a big deal.
Well said. Yeah. I love, like, discomfort is life. Like, holy fucking
Mm.
shit, dude. And realizing that, because that's hit me more and more, that like comfort, it's not fun, it's not exciting, it's not thrilling, it's just meh. It's kind of just numb in a lot of ways. And so if
Mm.
that's the case, then, you know, when I am feeling uncomfortable, at least I'm fucking living, right? And it's like, it actually becomes a pretty solid indicator of actually living, of actually being involved in reality, instead of, you know, sitting on the sidelines. Jay?
Hey, I love that, John. And I can speak a lot to that, because like here's like, did a journal today, small journal, very short journal entry, but it was basically to that point. But what you said, Andrew, just now, basically, it's about experiencing, like, whatever life brings us, whatever experience it is, the judgment of that experience, first of all, causes suffering. Like, and if there was any way to like enlightenment, if there's any way to it, it's directly into fucking suffering. Like, looking suffering straight in the fucking eyeballs and saying, I see you, motherfucker. And you're not like, there's no way you're gonna fucking beat me. You know what I mean? It's like, you've got to like look at whatever discomfort is out there, like straight in the eyeballs, and look at it. And that's it. And you are stronger than it, because you are fucking everything. And it is only a creation of our mind. You know what I mean? So if there is a way to enlightenment, it's got to be directly through suffering. I found that in my experience. But what I've said was a journal entry, and I was writing down, what do I love? And I said, I love the experience of living, even the parts of living that I didn't really appreciate at the time. All of the tough times have truly gave me perspective for noticing the beauty in the small everyday goings in my life today. And that was just like speaking to that. I thought that was pretty dope. Um, I'm pretty high, so like emotionally today, I've been through a lot of it. So if I'm like I don't know, I probably come out pretty strong emotionally, but that's because that's what I'm feeling. You know what I mean? Just kind of going through some stuff at the moment today. Like feel like the feelings are strong. I'm like, wow, just Jay's experiencing some feelings, and it's pretty cool though. I can just like express that, and it's nothing to be uh concerned about at all about it. I know there's nothing to judge. Nobody's there to judge me. Um, the only one that creates it would be me. So, anyways, I don't know why I brought that up, but I had the consideration. So, that's it going through the process. Uh,
Because it's fucking resonating is like crazy, dude. That's why I forget, like as everyone nods, which is so funny because I do the same thing. Like when you're speaking from your experience, you're speaking from experience. And I have absolutely been like, this past week, I think I've at least teared up on most of our raws. It's a lot of shifting stuff going on. And yeah, again, it's uncomfortable, but that's indicative of, you know, actually living for for me what seems like the first time in a while.
Mm.
And yeah, there's a lot that comes with that. Marie?
We are all crying. We are all feeling the things. And that is, I like what you just said, Andrew. Just like when you're speaking from your experience, you're speaking from experience. And I love that because it's just like we're all in it, and we're all, it will look like different shades of colors and shapes and whatnot, but it's the experience. We're all having this experience. It's just crazy from the vast intensities of emotions and the like ups and downs and the twists and turns. It's just like it's all over the place, and it's and that's why it's so I guess freeing, and I keep using that word today, but to have these types of spaces where we can just speak about what's coming up for us and how we can remind ourselves of the recognitions of like we're all here, and we're all in this experience, and see, Levi, the train. The train went away from me too. It seems to be all over the place today. But it's cool. It's cool just to have these reminders and um, to remember that like although like things feel intense and we have these moments of like I don't know what's happening and doubt in ourselves because that's what I feel like I'm at right now. Like, am I putting myself out there enough? Like what you said, Andrew, today. Like I think you just shared of like pacing in your room and when am I going to put myself out there? Like, am I going to hide forever? Like, I felt that so hard because I'm like, am I really? I still feel like I'm afraid at times. And I still feel that fear is present of like, yeah, stepping into that unknown. But we're always in the unknown. That's what's crazy. It's like, when do you have the known? When is it known? It isn't. And so it could be the experience can look whatever it's going to look like or whatever you feel like you're experiencing, but it's all unknown and it's all okay at the same time. And it's just like, so so I, I feel the shift coming. And I think part of like the letting go of the past or, accepting and recognizing the past selves and all of that, I think is interesting because I feel like it's been a process and I feel a shift for sure. So who knows? Who knows what's happening?
That is that is it. Because like like with the fear, like the fear is almost indicative, I think a lot of times of something that, you want to do that you're just overlaying thoughts about. And so it's not that you even have to necessarily, but it's an indicator. And it's again that discomfort. It's like like fears aren't comfortable, right? But they're indicative of like, you know, spots of life that you don't think you can handle or face. And like, I feel like as you go through them, it just opens up doors. Like it's a new, you step into a new reality. It's like a fucking doorway into a new reality, all of those fears. And so, it's not that you have to, but it's an option. It's like if we're sitting here in eternity, why not, check in on a couple of those other doors. Levi.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm thinking, yeah, I've just like recently like started like I've been posting on TikTok for a little while, and that was like uncomfortable in itself, right? And I'm kind of like playing around with different things, and a bunch of it I just want to delete because I don't like looking at it, but I just leave it because it's like whatever, who am I gonna delete it for, right? Anyway, so and then I have this Instagram where I kind of have, my old world kind of, right? And it's like, and that's been like this threshold that I've created for myself, like, oh, that is more scary. And I feel it is more scary, but it's like, anyway, so I've been posting a little bit there as well, like stuff a little bit like this and about my anxiety and stuff like that. And it's just so fascinating because it's not like it's not like I kind of knew when I started on TikTok. I could have just started posting there as well, but I didn't. And I don't know, kind of doing it stepwise. I don't know if that even matters to what I'm talking about here now, but anyway, so I'm posting this stuff about like anxiety to all these people that they like, because I feel like what is like kind of holding me back is like I feel like that doesn't fit into the one they know, right? Like Levi, they know this doesn't make sense that I'm suddenly posting this shit. Like I've been dealing with that stuff alone since I was like 23, right? And suddenly I'm like sitting there talking about it like it's nothing, basically. And yeah, what I wanted to come to is like, so I'm posting this shit there, and it's actually not that uncomfortable. And what is happening is people that I've known my whole life is like writing me a message and like, hey, I fucking hate flying as well. And then suddenly, like, as I told you earlier, man, like we've literally been sitting next to each other on a plane, pretending that we're not scared on in an earlier occasion, and now we're like, oh yeah, we fucking hate it, like both of us, like, and it's like that's the authenticity. We're not talking about what's happening in the moment. We're talking about whatever's been happening in the past or in the future. And it's like in that moment, there's a whole bomb of emotions going on, and none of us are talking about it. We're just sitting there with it inside us and not talking about it. And oh, that is what I fucking love about Dualistic Unity, because we're talking about what's happening here and now, like in the moment, what we're feeling, because that is what's happening. That is, we are this thing that is thinking too much and feeling a lot, and we're trying to navigate it, and we're trying to kind of be here as best we can. And it's like, that is so interesting. I love it. That is kind of yeah, holy shit. So I don't know. That kind of took me down there after that conversation with my old friend. Anyway, still a friend, but yeah. Yeah, that's it.
I love it, man. I love hearing it because I've said this, there's a conversation that we're not having about existing, existing as a whole, like what it means to exist. Everybody's just like, not just follow that God or that God, or don't believe in a God, follow science, and it's like, hold on, it's like, or at the very least, follow, your need for satisfaction, follow your need for control, follow your need to compare. We've never actually just sat down and just went, you know, this whole existence thing is pretty fucked up. And actually had a conversation about it and just dealt with all the emotions that brings to the surface. It's like, I don't want to talk about it like that. It's like, why don't you want to talk about it like that? Exactly. What about that bothers you? And it's just like, well, that means there might not be a rhyme and a reason to this. It's like, you can let that drag you down because it sounds like it already is. And that's the whole point. Like, it's simple. It's simple. It's a conversation about existing. And it's a conversation that any being on any planet, anywhere, at any time that had the capacity to have a conversation would inevitably get to.
Oh yeah, but I put the I in exist, damn it. You know. So I love and loathe words. They're so much fun. But it does feel that way. And I love that we've been chatting about freedom, and the word that came to mind as we were talking about it was just unattached. I feel so free when I feel in one way of expressing that freedom. It feels very unattached. Like I'm not holding on to an identity. I'm not holding on to what it should be. I'm not holding on to a concept. I'm not holding on to an expectation. It's just it feels very, very unattached. And then it does feel terrifying, but usually that's because I say it is, or I've decided that it is. Like I imagine I am walking through the forest. It is nighttime and I hear rustling amongst the bushes and the trees, and I get nervous because I don't know what that sound is, and I tell myself, oh, that could be a scary bear. But the bear could be just another young cub that this is their first winter without their mother, and they're a little nervous. And so the thing that you have just declared is this scary monster is also fucking scared. But when you open up the experience or your perception of that experience to be more than just you versus everything, then it's not you fighting a bunch of monsters. It's just you existing with other things that are also existing that could panic in the same way that you could panic. But if you're calm, generally that feeling is shared. It's almost tangible. You guys have ever and I'm sure that we've all had, you're in a room with a group of people and you're all of a particular emotion. You guys are either focused or you're laughing, and then someone walks into the room and they are just heavy. You can feel it. You can feel their emotion, whether they say it or they don't say it. And in the same way that in like other animals, because we're considered an animal, so other animals in the forest at night are just existing, and no one has to become a monster until you put the fucking monster mask on them and you say that is scary. But they're existing and they're navigating in the same way that you are. And when you panic, they panic more. But the option is not only to panic, and it's not to create monsters. It's to not give yourself a reason to run. Maybe it's a little bit of that, and not looking for reasons to be brave.
Mm.
John, did you want to follow up on
Thank you so much. I just have to comment on that. Looking for reasons not to run. That was what I was explaining earlier when the live was going haywire-ish, and here we are. And the sense of like, oh, this is me, and this is my chance to go. And it was like, no, let's see how this goes. So thank you for that perspective. That hit good.
it? It seems like when you're in those spots where it is, in a spot where maybe you were afraid of it, and then you're kind of there, you're in it. You're like, this is what I was afraid of. And it it doesn't feel like how you thought it would feel. even. And you're like, you're there as much as you're there in any other situation. Like, holy shit, like this whole time, this was the thing that I was worried about as it's playing out, and things are continuing to happen. And like, as you're not taking out that fucking ruler and measuring stick, it's like it's not there. You're still there, and you still can't know. Like, even if stuff goes really well, it doesn't make you more. And when that hits me, I'm like, oh fuck. Yeah, no. So that drive for it to go perfectly, for things to go really well, like if I know that's not making me more, then there doesn't have to be so much concern for it, you know, going how I think is poorly, because that doesn't do anything to me either. Marie.
Wow. I love this. And what's been interesting too, I think when suffering was brought up, I thought of, and this is like, I feel like people have been saying this too afterwards, of like the perspective of that, what that even means. Like, what is suffering, and like what we labeled as something that like we'll suffer through or an experience maybe we don't like, or fearful things. It's like when you recognize that's only it's only as real as like you're giving it, you're the one that's making it suffering. Like you could just be experiencing any experience. And Andrew, when you just said that too, of like when you have, maybe you're afraid to do something and then you actually end up doing it, and then you're like, oh, this is like, every other not every other experience, but like I'm still me here now. And that's like all I'll ever be. So like whatever's in front of me will just be whatever's in front of me, but I'm always just here now. And I can remember that when it feels like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this, or I'm not going to be able to get through this. No, because you've always just been here now. So whatever feels like it's like not going to be okay, you like, it's just, has it ever played that out that way? I mean, no, you're here right now. So I don't know. It's just like the perspective part of suffering I've been trying to approach. It's even like when I'm having feelings that I used to say I'm feeling anxious, or this is me, my anxiety, or whatever. The less I've been claiming it as, first of all, mine, because dude, anxiety's out there for everybody. It is not mine. It is here for everyone. And I don't want to ever say like it's just me that's experiencing this, or making it about that, because that just gives it more power. And so what I recognize too is like the choice is there to not see it as anxiety, but just like, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling. There's a feeling here, and like breathing through it, reminding myself like I'm okay because I'm always right here, right now, and bringing myself there instead of getting lost in what is the potential of getting afraid. The potential is always there, but there's also the potential to just sit there and observe, to relax, to pay attention. And so I've been playing with that and trusting, like when you were talking about other animals, or like the potential of like being afraid of what is on the other side, what's the unknown. There's also like this trust component of like trusting whatever is going to show up and whatever is happening. I'm stronger. And I know that's been brought up too, that I'm stronger than it because it's all me and it's all happening. And so it's just trusting that process has been really, it's all connected. It's all connected, and it's been fun. Thank you all for this conversation.
Jay.
Fuck yeah, Marie. That was awesome. Well said. And good point about the suffering, because suffering really is about what we make of it. It truly is. I'm glad you kind of clarified that, because when I was saying like, oh, the way through it is directly into it, like, yeah and no, because you're right. Suffering doesn't have to be suffering. At some point, you can kind of actually get a little comfortable with it. Once you've kind of accepted sort of like discomfort, I guess, if you want to consider that to be suffering. like something that's uncomfortable and getting into stuff. Once you kind of accept that discomfort, it's a lot like, again, with like, also with what you said about anxiety and what Ray said about excitement and anxiety being exactly basically the same feeling, and now since I've heard that kind of recently, I've been when I really feel like anxious, like really high, that feeling. I'm like, wow, this is super exciting. And I'm like, because I'm not necessarily like resistant to feeling that, you know what I mean? It's just noticing like, oh, hey, that's a feeling, ooh, that's kind of like, it feels a little high and like, but when I relate it to like, hey, now instead of my labeling it as anxiety, like, ooh, like this thing I should want to avoid, now it's kind of like, oh, check it out. Like, this is like kind of exciting, woo. And then, it depends on really how I frame it, because that's the entirety of my experience. And I've found that, like, if there's any suffering to be had, I fucking gave it to myself, pardon the French, but I really did. And I can give it away. I don't have to keep it. I can just drop it off at the door. So, like, that was awesome. Thank you, Marie.
Yeah. And I feel like so much of that is holding on to some sort of false certainty too about like even knowing something, because like things will swell up and you'll see stuff, like realize stuff, thoughts will be, swirling through. And then at least for myself, there can be this like habitual tendency to stare at it and to focus on that as if that's then something I can figure out, as opposed to seeing it and then at some point relaxing, like at some point realizing like, okay, that's there. Things are going to keep playing out. Like there's a shift that happens even in just certain things, popping up. Like, okay, that's there. And this is still my entire reality. Like this thing that's going on right now is still. And if there's something that pops up, it's like to prepare for it. How do you prepare for it? You pay attention right now. You get involved right now. You be yourself right now. And that can become, a moment to moment, day to day practice, just being yourself, just relaxing, even in whatever way that you can, letting go of assuming that you're doing something wrong. Just like the little tiny things as you go. Little drops in things, and just allowing that stuff to continue to yeah, continue to play out. I don't know where I was going with that anymore. Jay, you still get your hand up, but Levi, you just threw yours up, so I can pass to Levi.
Yeah, yeah. I think this ties in. I'm having a bit of a hard time to keep track, but but I'm thinking also back to something you said earlier about kind of just doing things for the sake of doing them, and then like not being so concerned about whatever it will be. And I'm just honestly finding that quite hard to do with social media, like because it's like it's just the opposite. Like, okay, I'm kind of noticing when I'm kind of just making a video because I want to, and I'm really noticing that. But then it goes up online, and then, you're like, what's happening here? Like, how's this trending? How's the 10 first doing? And then it's giving you live stats and everything. It's crazy, you're like being measured literally every 10 seconds almost. So yeah, it's just yeah, I mean, it's a bit hard to kind of pull myself back to like, but still, even that is just an experience, right? To just observe like myself kind of, getting whatever up or down from these results, right? So just detaching from that as well, I suppose. I'm just spitballing live here now, so it's just coming to me as I go. But yeah, I must say that is a very interesting experience for me to just yeah, observe myself in those situations.
It's funny, like that's kind of the whole point behind anything. It's funny because we're like, oh, I'm going to get on there and I'm going to get better at talking. I'm going to get better at expressing myself. No, you're going to express yourself. That's pretty much it. And through that, you're going to learn about expressing yourself. And through that, you're also going to learn about your doubts about expressing yourself. Every time you go to express yourself, you're going to be like, I don't want to. And you wouldn't have seen that if you didn't want to go and express yourself to begin with. And so that's really it. It's just so funny because, and I was saying this to Andrew earlier about the whole carrot and stick thing. When you stop trying to become something, you start to recognize that what you are is a conglomeration of where you put your attention. You know, all of a sudden, your entire life really just comes down to everything you've paid attention to, whether that's your doubts or what was in front of you, whether it was the task at hand or your opinion of it. That is what has been influencing you up until now and continues to do so. And we get the I guess the gift of being able to look back and pay attention to different parts of those memories, of those decisions. We can go, oh, wait, I was being really irresponsible there. That wasn't part I was paying attention to at all. I was paying attention to how everybody else was to blame. And all of a sudden now we've changed. Our entire history changes, in fact, because we gave attention to another part of the tree. Right. And so it's really simple. It's delightfully simple and annoyingly simple because it really just comes down to just keep going. Just keep going, keep doing. And eventually everybody's going to look at you like, wow, he's really good at going and doing. And you're not looking at it that way at all. You're just doing it. And it has nothing to do with you. It's like, before enlightenment, wash dishes, do the gardening, all that. After enlightenment, wash dishes, do the gardening, right? Nothing changes except how much you are involved with what you're doing, right? Whereas the rest of the time, it's about how everybody else would see you, how everybody else might react to you, where you fit within their world, how you would fit compared to some other fictitious person who somehow is always better than you. Right? Like it's always just this need to once again get some idea of how am I doing? And it's always going to drag you down. I remember I had mentioned this before. When I was younger, I met somebody and their question, because they were a financial advisor, was, where do you want to be in 5 years? And without missing a beat, I was like, in a state of mind where I'm not worried about where I'm going to be in 5 years.
I love that one so much. And it's so fucking just indicative of how much we can look around. And like when you're looking around, everything can start having sway in a sense, whether it's looking around in your past, looking around trying to plan for the future, looking around to other people, looking around to all of these things. But there's almost a gravitation when you're paying attention to where you're at, that all of those things don't have the same pull almost. If you're and it hit me how often I used to just think about tomorrow when I didn't want to feel whatever was going on right now. I just think about what was going to happen tomorrow and kind of imagine scenarios, daydream about next year, about that thing coming up, about the next thing. And and in that, it's like I'm spreading myself so thin. And it's like I'm opening it up to all different perspectives, whereas there's a difference when you're actually just paying attention to where you're at, when there isn't a measuring stick necessarily, when you're willing to not really know how things are going and how you're doing, that it's like there isn't as much of an ability for concern of judgment to play in, because you're not spreading yourself into all of these other potential situations. You're just locked in to where you're at. Like, so it's not even like there's not even a situation to judge. It's you here now. And so most judgment stems from, a larger thing, like an overarching sort of measurement. But if you're just locked into where you're at and willing to just be here, it's like there isn't as much space for all that stuff, and how far you want to look towards something or look forward to something, whether it's, out of excitement or out of fear or out of whatever you want to call it. It's just opening up the doors to all of those, the thought about all those perspectives or just more assumptions. Yeah.
It's like the question, which part of your body is the most important? Seems absurd, right? Or like, well, kind of all of it, no? Because it works together. The whole thing kind of works together. It's like, well, I could give up a toe, but it would cost you, right? You wouldn't be happy about it by any means, and that's the whole point. It's all important because it's all you, and that's very much goes back to the question we had in the social episode before this. If life is your playground, well, why have any empathy for anybody ever? It's like, because it's our playground. It's our body, like that's why, because we're all in this together. That's the only reason why, is because this idea of division is fictitious, and that's the only place that comparison works. That's the only place that competition works, is in the perspective that we're divided. Other than that, it's always just kind of tongue in cheek, like, yeah, you're faster, or wink. It's like we're all part of the same body. It's like, two blood cells going, I'm beating you to the heart. It's like, who gives a shit? We're both keeping the body alive. Like, that's great. And that's really the most important thing. But we forget that. We really get so caught up in, like, how I'm doing, measuring my progress, racing to that heart, not realizing we're facilitating a heart attack.
And that's every component of us too, right? Like we'll pick a component of us, and those will be the red blood cell, and then compare it to the other ones, and it's just like one little track right there, but it's the same sort, like every aspect of ourself is the same sort of flow in different directions. But no, I judge that one, that thing, like, and that's all I see. It's like there is an infinite number of perspectives of ways that you can think about yourself or look at yourself, and you've just gotten familiar with, a couple. And those are the ones you keep measuring. Those are the races you keep looking at. Like, you don't have to do that. Those are flowing no differently than all the others. And, you can relax. It helps all of it go a little bit more smoothly.
Yeah, I can relate to that, Andrew. I'll just jump in. I'm not going to put the hand up at this point, but um, yeah, just recognizing that everywhere I look is me. You know what I mean? Like there is no division. It's just an amazing, freeing again thing. You know what I mean? It's just a very freeing thing to not have to have any separation really anywhere that I look. It's including within me. Like the bounds of me are just not here. They're very much everywhere that I look, and that really breaks down any of the barriers that I give myself. Like the separation is just the cause of any conflict in the world, really. Anything that's going on with the big picture wars and societal things, religions and governments and corporations and all the big structures, they're just macrocosms of the division that we feel inside. Like the feeling that I have to somehow, like, this is what really drew me to your content initially, Andrew, is the value factor. You know what I mean? I never really quite looked at it that way. Like I had a value level that I gave myself, bringing up the ruler again, but like I was like blown aback by that when I first started listening to your stuff a couple years back, and like holy shit, I really do like rate my value like all the fucking time. And it was quite the realization that first of all, I didn't have to do that, and then that introduced me to that maybe I'm not anything that I think I am, because if my value is like peak maxed out at all times, then maybe I just need to start questioning some stuff, And I started looking into things, and then I'm like, really, where do I end? And you got into that stuff too. And if you really think about it, like our bodies don't just end where our skin does, at an atomic level, things are just zooming in and out of us. We've got like little bacteria and body things living with us and on us, and then like you've also got your like magnetic like atmosphere. You have like a heat signature that these are all like parts of our just general like bodies that we consider ours, but it extends farther than that, because where does that end? Like can you put really, where tell me where the end of you is, and I can debate you, because that's me. I am you, like literally. That's like there is no separation to anything. So there's no reason for me to like up my value to to judge anything, and including myself, So it's fucking A, dude. What an insight. Yeah, I totally relate to that.
Yeah, you'll always be in conflict with that fucking. Yeah, Marie.
I loved all of that. Thank you so much for jumping in there. That was amazing because I essentially was going to go on a similar tangent, honestly. As I was like giggling. I'm like, you know what? Let him do it. Like, this is how it's supposed to go down. And it's going to be a similar rundown anyway of just like, that helps so much. And that's like the ultimate freeing thing for me is like, there is no need to compete with anybody. If anything, it only allows me to lift others up when I hear of like what they're accomplishing, or like I'm able to like listen more because it's me. I'm here for me. I'm here for you. I see you. You like, there's no difference, and I love just being able to show up and be what's best for others, like, because it's no different. I feel that like that difference seems to be blurred lately. And so it's been cool. And I also love to, when the things come up in life where like it allows me to question that need to compete with others or see how that like plays out. So in my school, I'm a coach. I teach in pre-K, and so there's two head teachers. There's two classes, and the head teachers are so different from one another. Like they're like, it's like laughable how different they are, and like their techniques and methods and how they approach life. I mean, down to the a lot of things. And so then it's interesting to see uh like I guess the ego being played out, or like when you have that recognition, like that idea of separation, right? Like the thinking that you're special, or having that desire to be because you feel like, I don't know, that's what we're supposed to be seeking. And so I'll see it play out like when my like head teacher that I work with does something great and like something cool for the school, and like we kind of honor that, um the other one will take offense to it. It's like, you're making it about you. Instead of just like recognizing, wow, this is a cool thing you've been doing. You just sense it. The vibe is off. They get like are some standoffish in interactions. They get uncomfortable. They start bragging about the different things that they're doing in their classroom, and like trying to put on this whole face instead of just being like, but it's just interesting to watch as that plays out, because I often will remember what Amanda said a while back of just like, when I'm starting to get into that, like what she's doing, she's feeling attacked. I remember, like I just said it also in the beginning of this, of like, there's a part of me that's like that too. Like there's a part of me that still feels attacked, or there's a part, and so I just like less, um like less need for judgment there, and just more of just acceptance of what is, and then you're just able to navigate. So it's interesting because like I'm often the person who's trying to bridge, where can we collaborate? We are very different, and the school wants more collaboration, and they're like, hmm, nah. And I'm like, well, if they're, where can we? And so it's been cool to do that. And then with my students, with that competition, it's so funny to see like how young it starts, like people having this desire to like be the best, or beat others in various random things. It's like the when Ray brought that up of like, if it was like two cells just like racing, like, why are we why is this a competition? Who gives a shit? So I like to question, like, if they're fighting over, oh, they took like my spot in line, or like I'm supposed to be here first. I'm like, why does it matter who's first? Are the people in the front, are they better than the people in the back? And they'll be like, no. Um, and it's like, are we all going to the same place? Like, are we all just like, is there an advantage? And what's funny though is some of them will say for sure, because when we get out to the yard, they all fight for these bikes, and so they do want to be in the front of the line. But that's a whole other reminder of like, zoom out, man. There's other people here. But it's just cool to like how often life gives you opportunities to like question things and to like remove attachments that you held on to so tightly, and recognizing when feelings come up and what they may mean. And I don't know, it's just been an interesting ride. I don't know where I was going with any of that, but that was fun.
Okay.
Oh shoot, man! So you got me because I had a response right to something that you had said, and then as you were kind of finishing up, I was like, oh, look the fly, or something. Well, that's my train of thought. Oh lordy. But yeah, I can relate to the overall conversation, about just oneness with everything. And I like what you were saying actually about the teachers doing their thing, and just kind of understanding that that's a part of me too, because that's something that is not easy to distinguish, just generally from our conditioning. You know what I mean? So that really strikes me as just like, wow, that it's just a really fresh perspective for me. So I appreciate your offering that. It's just out of general experience as far as you're concerned. For sometimes it's kind of like, oh yeah, just fresh perspective looking at things. Because as I become broadened in my awareness of myself as all of everything, basically, it's like there's newer nuances that will kind of appear and newer things of ways of looking at that. And like, oh, no kidding. And it's like, wow, because you can really kind of see how you are living your life in a certain way. You know what I mean? And just a lot of it's conditioning. You're not aware of it until you're aware of it. But it's really nice to be able to notice and take a look at and do something with it if you want to or not. You know what I mean? There's no like rules to experience, but for me to have the consideration of everybody else that I would have for myself, and at least there's no one-upsmanship. There's nothing like whose back am I jumping on? You know what I mean? Ow, ow, ow. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't really work. But yeah, so I just wanted to add that I really resonate with what you were saying, Marie, with that. Yeah.
Yeah, perspectives certainly start shifting in a lot of ways when you start realizing you're only ever interacting with yourself. And like it's application. Like fuck, I didn't think it was application for so long. And it's like it's so easy to fucking say words about stuff and not do it, be it, actually do that, because freedom ain't free. It's not to say there's a cost, but it's letting go of false certainty. That's for sure. Letting go of that sense that you're in control. It's like there's work done to be it. It's not just, gifted in a on a silver platter. It's like, no, there's shit digging in to stuff, and it's all relative to how much you dig in and look at, and just, continue to set yourself aside in in all the different ways. They all go hand in hand. Amanda.
Fucking damn. What came to mind was freedom isn't free when everything seems like a cost to my identity. Like everything's a cost. Everything is something that I have to pay for when it comes to like, I am paying for this. I am losing this. I am always measuring. And so there's measuring up, there's falling short, so it's it is very interesting to think about and to feel, right? So I think about how so much of my life was based on conceptual knowledge. I read something, I memorize it, I understand the topic on a conceptual level, and I think that that means something. And then I apply that, and all that concepts, they just blow up and go right out the window, because there is something so different to the conceptual understanding of making rice versus actually boiling the water and making the rice and not burning it. Conceptually, I know how to make the perfect pot of rice. That does nothing for me when I'm standing in front of the stove, actually engaging in the middle of that experience of pouring the water, pouring the rice, putting the little bit of oil, putting the trick that I showed you, Andrew, or putting the spoon in the pot. And if the spoon can stand on its own, it lets you know that the water and the rice are perfectly balanced when you don't have a measuring cup with you. You know, and who that wasn't in the first ever like explanation of conceptually understanding how to make rice. Somebody made like 1,000 pots of rice and just left the spoon by accident because they forgot to chop up the fucking onions for the steak. And they go and they come back and the spoon is standing there and they're like, huh, how did that happen? And then they go through this whole experiment trying to recreate that because they conceptual like, oh, I must have done something. You know, and then it's just that almost that dance between conceptual knowledge and experiential knowledge, and knowing that they both serve a purpose, right? And one is not better than the other. One, they work together. You know, you are introduced to topics through concepts, and then you get to live them, you get to experience them, and that adds to your conceptual knowledge. And so it's so funny because you've probably heard this expression where like people are book smart or street smart, right? And pretty much that's letting you know that somebody is either very conceptually intelligent or someone is very, very good in the experience of adapting in real time. You know, they know how to pay attention. Somebody is street smart, they know how to pay attention to the experience as they are in it, as it is unfolding. Somebody who's very book smart is very much stuck in the concepts. They can rattle off concept after concept. They are very, very book smart, right? And yet they are not better than the other. So my mom, as an example, is always like very proud of the fact that I'm one of the first family members to go to college. And I'm always like, well, mommy, you've got like a PhD in street knowledge. Let's not pretend that you don't have, that you can't do the things that I'm doing because I went to college and you did it. You know, you gave me a lot of the tools that made me very successful in conceptual environments, you know, because you taught me how to pay attention, how to give respect to my peers and my teachers, because we were sharing that learning environment together, how I was showing up and giving my best because I knew that that contributed to the experience of learning more concepts. And so I tried to remind her that, you know, all of the experiences that she had are where I had a foundation to build a lot of that conceptual quote unquote intelligence. And so I try to remind everyone that being very strong in one way on one end of the spectrum doesn't mean that you're superior to the other side of the spectrum. They both play a part, and you can learn something from everyone, including the homeless person that's down the street, as much as you can learn from the CEO, because I have talked to both, and they both have experiences, they both have concepts that they hold on to, that they've let go through trial and error, you know. And it's just that, you know, one is not better than the other. You know, I like the phrase, one hand washes the other and both hands wash the face. And for me, that saying lets me know that, you know, one thing is connected to the other, but together they're pointing to something much larger. And one hand can feel better than the other hand, but if they keep doing that, then they're never going to know how they're connected to the same body, and how together they can do so much more than think that one hand is better.
It doesn't even feel good to look at the other hand and think that that one's worse or better than you. It's like then you're fucking thinking again, and you're not living, you're not washing, you're not actually doing things. You're taking a break from living and scratching your head. You're like, well, how do I compare? I did this move a little bit better. I moved that one. It's like you were touching each other. No, that was the other that you were interacting with and doing things with. And so you can't even, like, you can try, but you can't even do it. So you might as well shut the fuck up and just live and just keep fucking paying attention. Marie?
Word. um, wow, I have been enjoying also the what you brought up, Amanda, of like the experience, and like you could get caught up in, reading the books, getting the information, even when you're relating it to like having these conversations, or like when I'm listening to DU, or I'm, talking to you all, or um it's the easy peasy work right here. Like, and then you can get wrapped up in this though. It's like get almost comfortable with this, and it's but the work is really comes from those uncomfortable, when I'm talking to people who are looking at me like I'm fucking crazy, or that are vastly, different in how I perceive things. And it's just like that's the work. And it's in those moments where it's like uh I'll have the opportunity to remind myself that that separation is still out there, even if this person looks very different from me, or saying things that I wouldn't say, or acting a certain way that I wouldn't act. Doesn't mean it's not me. Doesn't mean that it's like that it's different than how I see all of you. It's just like it's interesting to have those moments, because it's challenging. That's all, it's all part of it. So I appreciate the reminder of like, 'cause I'm reading a cool book now, and I'll get like caught up in the words and caught up in all of that and caught up in these conversations. But um, I appreciate when I'm like able to dive deep into situations that are unknown, uncomfortable, and recognizing it's all the same. And it's fun. I see my battery's about to die. Hold on.
Yeah, and all those situations and conversations are opportunities too, right? To put things into action, to put things into play, to find out really what you're made of. And as you get into like a big one for me, just talking about anything slightly beyond small talk stuff is just like not getting frustrated. And I've realized more clearly that it's just frustration with myself. That's all it ever is. Like that's all I'm ever expressing. Even if I think it's someone else is making me do it, it's my own frustration that I can't, convince them, as I'm not even fucking seeing shit myself. And it's so it becomes even less so about the conversations and like what you are in the conversation. Like it's not even the words, it's just you, like not even what you're expressing, because the expressing almost like happens more naturally when you are relaxed a little more, when you are a little more nonchalant just about life and reality, taking yourself a little more nonchalant about yourself, taking yourself a little bit less seriously. And then it's like things come from there. That's somewhere you gotta get even.
Oh, um, I wanted to touch upon like Marie, when you're talking about the teacher that really doesn't like it when the other head teacher gets any praise. And I think that that's so like deliciously absurd that we think that like there's like a max amount of happiness in the universe. Like, no, no, no. Someone else is getting 30% of happiness from the vault, from the universal vault of happiness, that, that means that 30% is not there for me. And it's like, you uh consider this. You could make happiness. Crazy, crazy idea. Same thing with love. You see a couple, you see a family member, you see two brothers having an awesome moment, they're high-fiving, and you don't think, shit, that means that there's less love out there. Damn it, what am I gonna do? I need to commandeer this love before it runs out, and so that's what I would tell myself when I was feeling insecure about other women, and I was feeling insecure about their looks, and I was like, yeah, but someone else feeling beautiful, someone else glowing, someone else feeling comfortable in their skin does not take away from any of my ability to feel beautiful for myself. It doesn't take away my capacity to be appreciated, to feel, to have someone think that I am beautiful. It doesn't, like, there's no limit to it. And definitely something that I came to terms with, because I was one of the only girls in my group that wasn't dating. And so I was like, oh no, like I am, like, what am I doing? Like this, like these other girls are, they have their boyfriends, and like, is love gonna run out? And it was like, yeah, but even if I see them and they're happy with their boyfriend, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden my potential for that has gone, or that my availability or my capacity for love is lowered, or anything like that. So I was always reminding myself when I was younger that yes, someone else's shine doesn't dim my light. Someone else's experience of love doesn't diminish my capacity for love. You know, it's like there's, you know, how I know that there's enough, because we always make more, you know. And I could see that when I would make a new friend, and I would feel myself having more love for that person. That didn't take any of the love that I felt for my current friends or my current family members. I was always just making more love, making more joy, making more experiences to embody, to be involved in. And so that's how I was dealing with a lot of the jealousy that I felt, and may continue to feel. It's like, yeah, but now that means that you're comparing, you're measuring, and you're forgetting that we can always make more. You can always make more, because you're always making the experience that you're feeling. And although there can't really be, you know, like, suffering without separation, I do think that there might be there might be a an option where you feel separation without the suffering, you know. But the other way, it's not. Like, suffering always includes separation, but separation doesn't require you to suffer, you know, because you can feel separate, and that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. That's just a part of this experience. And then when you get that feeling of feeling connected, then all those feelings of separation are secondary. they're not they're not as important as we used to consider them. And then you develop, you know, more empathy and sensitivity, because when you hear someone judging you, it's like, oh, I know that you're not really judging me. You're judging what you think you're not enough of. So if someone used to tell me that I wasn't very quiet, you know, shocker, that I was loud. And I used to take that so personally. And now when I hear someone saying that, I'm like, oh, I wonder if you feel like you're not heard. I wonder if you feel like I'm too loud, and that takes away your capacity to be loud. And there's plenty of space on the stage. Join me. Like, there's plenty of room. I don't have to be anything for anyone, but when I hear certain judgments, I'm usually hearing what they're judging about themselves. And so I feel for them, because I'm like, damn, I still do that, you know, or I just did that, you know. And so I do like to remind anyone who's like, oh, you're so confident. I was like, yeah, and I'm also terrified. You know, we were at the retreats and I'm doing karaoke, and I was talking, Leva and I were chatting this morning, brainstorming, and we were talking about the retreats, and I'm like, oh yeah, I did a new song, and I looked confident, but I was terrified, and I felt great. And the song was about feeling good, by Nina Simone, and I'm feeling good and terrified before, during, and after, right? And so I like to let people know that, you know, there's rarely an experience where you're feeling just one end of the spectrum. Usually you're feeling two opposing feelings. You're excited and you're nervous. You're curious, but you're nervous. You know, usually you're feeling two things, but you're so zoomed in on one end of the spectrum that you think that you're only feeling one end of the spectrum. But both of those things are always there, whether you zoom in or zoom out. And it's just knowing that there's space for everything, because we're always making space. We're always making experiences. And so it doesn't feel like you have to, it feels more like the lines don't feel like walls anymore, because I'm not taking those lines as being absolute and cemented in their presence. You know, the lines don't have to be walls. They can just be redrawn and redrawn over and over again.
Well said. Well said. Speaking of which, as we only have a few minutes left of this roundtable episode, everybody who listens to Dualistic Unity knows that we really don't have any lines. Like, we have people who volunteer to help us. We actually have two people in this roundtable right now who are going to be offering coaching services to the community, giving them a chance to work on their own their own personal insights and to get out there and get some more experience and being totally fucking uncertain. And the reason for that is because we recognize that while people will have certain titles, the fact is that they are never those titles. And dualistic unity is really the recognition that you are more than just a role or a title or any one specific thing, that you are a multifaceted, infinitely complex being, and that you are going to have many different fucking things that you're going to want to do in many different ways. And so whenever anybody gets involved with us, we're like, hey, what would you like to do now? You know, it's like, so far we have learned marketing. So far we have learned, we've learned this, we've done coaching, we've done, and I mean that every single person who is on board with this is just doing what they can with what they know, and sometimes what they can with what they're learning. Trying things for the first time, just pushing themselves out there, because again, that's what this is. It's not simply an organization. It's an organization without the need for that structure, without the organization. In fact, it's an act of faith. That said, currently we were thinking that it would be really nice if we could offer some of this conversation to people who don't speak English. So if you happen to be somebody who speaks another language fluently, or speaks English as a second language fluently, and you speak another language as your first language, we would love to hear from you. If you would like to do some voiceover, some dubbing for all of season 1 for us, we would love to discuss that with you. Again, we don't have a lot of money, but we are willing to help in whatever way we can. Maybe we can offer you a sweet perk on a retreat. We can offer you some monetary compensation. I'm not saying we can't, but what I'm saying is that we would much rather work with somebody who sees the vision of what we're trying to do than somebody who is simply, a professional at voice acting or dubbing or anything like that. So if that's you, reach out. We would love to know how to work with you. We would love to know what language you speak. And if we can pair you up with another person in the community, then that's perfect. You can play the role of Andrew and Ray in a totally different language. And won't that be fun? Because then you'll be walking our footsteps, as it were. Fuck, good luck. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking about that right here. Pass it over to Andrew to wrap this up. I want to say thank you to everybody who could be here today in this roundtable. I know sometimes it's like, what the fuck is he doing over there? I wish I knew, but I will try and explain it in the Patreon call after this. I do appreciate your patience and your tolerance, as well as all of your insight and the fact that I didn't for 1 second feel like I wasn't part of this conversation. I could hear myself in all of you. And so thank you. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you to all of you for being here and fucking jumping in and seeing how it fucking plays out, because we never really know these ones. And it's so funny how we can continue to think that we have nothing to share or say, and yet we start talking and everyone's like nodding along, and we'll still be like, I don't even know what that was right there. It's like, I have like a million things I'm ready to say right now about this, because you are talking to me. You are expressing that. And I respect the fuck out of anyone willing to just feel things and be honest with themselves about, not jump to the judgment, Amanda, to your point, looking at someone who's talkative or quiet anywhere on the spectrum and assuming something about them, like, that's something in you there. And that's, all we're doing really is not assuming that it's on someone else. It's on me. There's no one to save us, no one to change us, no one to push us or pull us if we're not, looking to someone else. And in that spot, you can just look to yourself. And if you're just looking to yourself, waking up each day and building that trust in yourself, it's fucking incredible what life can start to turn into or feel like. And I very much feel like I'm barely getting a glimpse of that. And it's exciting, to say the least. And it's exciting to be, involved in whatever the fuck this is. I don't know. I have no fucking idea, but it's fucking cool and it's exciting and it gets me fucking going. So yeah, this has been a blast. And we are now at time. So I'm just gonna wrap it. Talk to you soon, everyone.
Bye.
Yep. guess I end this. All right. Bye, guys. Shit, I have to do it this time. All right. See you on Patreon in 15 minutes.